What's up YouTube, it's Matthew here, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I recently got a comment from one of you all asking me to make an updated version on how to find ARV, how to find offer prices, how to find rehab costs and other things like that, and how to present that over to a potential motivated seller. And so in today's video, we're going to go over ARV in detail, how to find a market value, the market value of a property, especially in today's climate in 2022. It may be one of the most difficult years to find the ARV. I recently had an appraisal done on a property that I'm under contract to buy as my first rental property investment. So I'll keep you all updated on that. But I'm glad that this was a more modern appraisal because they put into their appraisal report like things like, are properties in this area increasing, right? Are property values in this area increasing? Are there a low supply of properties in this area? Have rents been increasing in this area? Is rents going to stay the same around this area, and different things like that? And so they were able to kind of put into perspective the market in their appraisal. And so that's something that I like. And I know as beginner wholesalers, it may be difficult for you to judge a value of a property. It may sound high what a seller is offering you or telling that they want for a property, but in reality, in today's market, it may be a good deal. But despite all of that, we can still get deals around 70 to 80% of market values, even much lower than that in today's market. So you all don't lose hope. In today's video, I'm going to try to break it down, try to implement 2022 into our figures, into our calculations on how we can find these values, right? Rehab, what to offer to a seller, and market value. And so in this video, we're just going to go over all of that. I'm actually going to use PropStream for a lot of my calculations. So if you all are interested in PropStream, check the link down below. It really helps support this channel. And if you're wholesaling, you need a data software like PropStream. So check out my link down below. All right, let's head right into my computer and I'll share with you all my screen on how I run my numbers, how I comp in today's market. All right, everyone. So now I'm on Zillow. So I just pulled up a random address on Zillow. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run numbers on this particular property. So the good thing about Zillow, let's say you just type in an address into Zillow, right? This is the first part, finding ARV, finding the market value in today's market, right? You just type in the address. So let's say you look at this property on Brookfield Avenue, right? And you want to see, okay, all fixed up, what can this property sell for? And you type it in. One thing that you can look at is the Zestimate. Now, Zestimate, it can be good, sometimes it can be spot on or around the price. Sometimes it cannot, right? And so I do look at that, especially in areas where there's a lot of information, a lot of comps. It's not bad to look at that. And honestly, me knowing this area, this is not a bad price, right? So, but we want to go even more in detail. And so what I love about Zillow is that you can click on the maps. And then what I like to do, I like to go over here and click lot lines. Now, lot lines, it kind of shows the different lots around the area, and it shows different sales that happen. So right here, we see a sale for $240. We see one for sale at $249. So automatically, this $237 is around that price range, right? And I don't know exactly how many beds or it said 2 baths, but I don't know how many beds are in this property. But these lots seem like similar size lots and everything like that. So for example, we can click one of them and just look up the information. So let's just look at this recently sold property. But first, let's just make sure we understand our data here. So it's around 2,300 square feet, 2 baths. So let's just guesstimate that it's 3 beds. So I'm just going to go over here and check up this 240 right here. All right, so this is 3 beds, 2 baths, smaller square footage, much smaller actually, but it's sold for $240,000, right? And this estimate says it's $284, and it's more updated, hardwood floors, everything is move-in ready essentially. And so I would use that as a comp because of Bed Bath. I know the square footage is a little bit off, but I think that other property was converted or something like that because it looked a little different. Let's go here. There's a property for sale around the corner at 249. All right, so we have this property, 249, 3 beds, 3 baths, and it's around 1,700 square feet. And this one actually needs updates, right? So you see the pictures here that there's carpet in the bathroom, right? And so this is a comparable comp if the property is in similar condition. So yes, it's close to market value, but you see that properties in this condition is selling for this price. Now, as a wholesaler, as someone who wants to make an assignment fee and wants to make their cash buyer money, I want to go for 249, right? Because even though this property looks like it needs updates, it's probably like structurally sound, the foundation, the roof is probably decent. It's just a bunch of cosmetic stuff, right? I wouldn't think this would be ideal for a flipper in this price range. In order for a flipper to make money, he would have to get this, or she would have to get this under 200,000, right? And so we're looking up property values, after repair values. And this is a good comp, honestly. And this is not exactly after repairs, but I even think just looking at that other house that we saw at 240, it's very similar. All right. And so I looked at another property around that area, and we have this property right here. So this property sold for 232. And it's move-in ready property, right? It does need some cosmetic updates and different things like that. So you can know that, okay, move-in ready properties, that everything is working fine. You can sell it. You can sell it for around 230, 240. That's the price range that we've been looking at. Now, all updated, you could probably get even higher, maybe in the 260, 270 range. And so you have to think about that when you're looking at all these different properties. Let's say what other comps. There's one comp at 327 that sold. All right, so we had 3 beds, 3 baths, 1,900 square feet. And this is updated, fairly updated, move-in ready. And this just sold this month, right? And so this square footage is closer to our original comp, but it has an extra bath. So that does help it. So you can see that properties in a condition that needs slightly some updates are selling for around the 240 range, right? But this property just sold for over $320,000, right? So you can look at this estimate and go back to our original property. Let me see if I can go back to it. Is it this one? Maybe it's this one, or it was around it. But essentially, you know, the homeowner may say, you know, I have a house selling for 240 around here. You know, that's not entirely bad, you all. Okay, you still have to consider it. Yeah, it's this property right here that we were looking at. So 237. So, and it's around 2,300 square feet. So a person can get into that property under 200,000 and fix it up and sell it for 320. That, like we just saw. So that's one way I look at comps in today's market. I just look at the raw data. I look at what's selling, what's selling for, and what's sold. Another thing that you can do is just go on these websites like PropStream. If you're interested in PropStream, check the link down below. So, for example, on this detailed analysis of this property, we have comparables and nearby listings right here. And so it still has some public record data on PropStream, right? It doesn't go in detail about the MLS, like average days on market and other things like that, but it has the sell date and it has the amount. And so you can even do it by date. So for example, if you go all the way down, they have comps up until last month, right? And so even though they made changes earlier this year, you see all this information regarding sold properties that sold around that area, right? And so there's still viable and enough information where you can make a calculated guess or calculated estimate of the ARV or the market value of a particular property, right? And then you can drill down even more. You can do it by square foot. You can do it by distance away. You can look at sold. Okay, so they obviously have a sold option here, right? But these are probably that sold on the public record that anyone can see. You can do it by beds, baths, year built, and other things like that. And so Prop stream is another thing to look at. And in prop stream, you can usually look at this average sale price, but you have to consider some things. I think there was some like $1 million sold listing, and I think this is because it was a package deal. So when you're running your numbers, you can put that into consideration. Like, okay, maybe that's not the one I want to go after, and just add up all these other ones, do medium, do an average of all of them, and different things like that. And you can also just look at the estimated value right here, right? So after repairs, it can be a little bit difficult, but I would say is just look at these sold data, look at this information, and going back to here, I would get this property like under around 180, a little bit under. If I fix it up, you can probably sell it close to 300,000, right? If it's this square footage, because we saw a property like we saw that sold for 327 right here. Okay, so that's one thing to consider. But this property right here is listed for 249, but it's not as updated, right? So I know this is a little bit difficult and can be all over the place, but that's one of the best ways that I found to look at property values. Just look at the data, look at, okay, 3 beds, 2 baths in this area. You just get familiar with your area and you understand. So just trust the process, trust your learning pains and everything like that. All right, so let's get into rehab. So I made this quick formula or this quick calculation to understand these other options, like, okay, what should I offer and what's the rehab and other things like that. So rehab, I'm still learning this, right? So I'm not that versed in rehab, but all I know is that in my area, whether you're in the Midwest, you're not in like an LA, California, LA is in California, like a California or New York or Seattle area or Miami area, you can expect, if it just needs cosmetic, it doesn't need a new roof, it doesn't need foundation repairs, it doesn't need structure repairs, it needs new carpet, new LVT, it needs a new like kitchen, like maybe painting the cabinets, new appliances, new flooring throughout. You can expect to pay between $40,000 and $50,000 for a decent size, let's say between 1,500, 2,200 square foot property, right? For cosmetics, right? If you need a new roof, if you need HVAC done, if you need electrical and plumbing done, then that's probably another 30, 40 grand to the deal, right? And so you can always estimate. So when I look at a property, for example, let's just go to this property. And from the outside, it looks like it needs a new roof. It looks like, let's say, it needs new windows and updates all inside. This property, I'm saying, okay, the estimate is around 237. I saw a listing sold for over 300,000. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get this property under 200,000, right? And maybe it's going to cost a flipper 50, 60,000 to put into this property, right? So they're all in 250 and they can sell it for 300, 320 and make 50, 60 grand off their deal, right? Or let's say it can only sell for 260, right? Because that's a possibility too. And I would price that comp closer to around 260. I would do the same thing. I would see if I can get it lower and around 180 and go from there. So for example, let's say your purchase, let's say we're looking at this property. Let's say we can get it at 180 for the property. And the rehab, let's say cosmetics, roof, let's say it's going to cost them 50,000, right? So the total cost is 230, and the market value, let's say, is 300,000 because we saw that comp at whatever. So I use the 75% rule instead of the 70% rule, right? Does it hit 75% or lower, right? So you want to make sure that all in your cash buyer is under 75%. And I raised it up 5%. You can even go to 80% in some markets. So essentially what this rule means is that after purchasing the property, rehabbing it, a flipper wants to be under 75% of the market value, right? So this is what the cash buyer will be buying the property for, right? And this is their market value. So they're around that 75% range. And so this would be considered a deal, right? But now you have to implement your assignment fee. So what I would do, I would just insert a thing right here, and I'll put assignment. So let's say you want to make 10,000 from this. Now that brings it to 80%, right? And some people are okay with an 80% rule, especially in today's market when deals are hard to find, right? So yes, it's important to put your assignment. So this purchase is what you will offer, the highest you go with the seller, right? This is how much you want to make. This is your estimated rehab. So that's the total cost for the cash buyer, the investor, right? You take that, you divide it by the 300,000. The 300,000 is how you find market value. It's the market value of the property. All fixed up, this property will sell for $300,000 or more, right? So you take the total cost and you divide it by the market value. Total cost divided by market value equals your percentage rule, right? Whatever market you may be in, maybe 80%, it may be 70%, maybe 60%, 90%, whatever it may be. Because like in some markets, it can be 90%, especially if it's like $1 million home. Sure, I mean, a flipper wouldn't mind making 100 grand, right? Or something like that. So, if that makes sense, because if it's a 90% rule, let's say they're all in on a property at 900,000 and they can sell it at $1 million, right? 900,000, that's like all agent fees, all lending fees, everything. They're all in $900,000. That's a 90% rule, but they're still making a ton of money, right? 100 grand, a 6-figure check. In smaller markets like the South, the Midwest, 90% rule wouldn't make sense, right? Why would a flipper spend $50,000-$60,000 just to make 5 grand, just to make 10 grand, right? So it has to work in your market. So I noticed that the more competitive a market is, the higher this rule is, and the higher market value prices there is, the higher it is, right? So I hope that helped you all understand this a little bit more, how to find market value, how to find rehab. I didn't go much in detail about rehab because I'm still learning this process and I'm trying to understand it more. Material costs have gone up. Everything is changing. Lumber prices can be up one day, can be super low one day. Like literally it changes like that on a on a day-to-day basis. And so, but I estimate, like I was talking to a contractor and he was saying like he does a lot of $40,000 jobs for investors. So I feel like that's just cosmetics, new flooring, new tile, new paint, new drywall, new cabinets, maybe painting the cabinet, and that's it. So I see the average flip for a normal size house. We're not talking about large houses, like between, I would say 50 grand, around that 50 grand range. But yeah, but you never know. It's just hard to tell, especially to an audience around America that I'm talking to. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll talk to you all later.